If we could maybe start by talking about your early life in Hawick.
Oh, aye.
You said your father was in the army
Yes.
in the First World War. Could you maybe tell me a wee bit about your dad?
Well, I never talked much about it again, but
No.
I knew that he had been in the war right enough, because he said to me, only one thing advice I can give to you, don't volunteer. And I did. I volunteered for the second front, and that's how I come to get the medal, along with other things, of course.
I think you said he was a drum major in the KOSB, is that correct?
Eh?
You said your dad, he was a drum major, was it, in the KOSB?
He was in the 2nd Battalion KOSBs in Agra in India.
India.
And they used to tell us stories about that, and he had pictures of the funeral pyres, you can, where they just put them, or the dead folk there, and they just, and sandalwood was the wood that they used because it had a smell, and it took the death smell away, you can, and things like that.
Yeah, well, I've seen a few sites there, certainly.
Because they were fascinating for the likes of me as a laddie, you can. And later on I saw a few dead folk, but you can, it didn't bother me.
No.
It wasn't me. See, it wasn't me, it was a big brother.
After the First World War, you'd be going to primary school.
Eh?
You'd be going to primary school not long after the First World War ended.
Aye, that's right, aye.
Was there many lads in your class that they lost their dads?
Well, I have a photograph. I didn't have very many photographs of my father, but I had a calendar one day, and it was a pipe band, and I spotted him right away in the front. I said, that's my bloody father sitting there with a drum. It was an ex-serviceman, and it was dated 1920, just after the First War finished. And of course, he had no work. And he got a job in the cinema. And when the kind of silent films, when they're horses, and he used to do that with the bloody drums, and the horses' hoofs. And that was one of the jobs that he had. And then he got a job as a labourer and when they're building houses down the Winston Road. And after that he got a better job. Again, he was lucky. A woman opposite the railway station there, she had a wee sweetie shop. And she knew him, and my father knew her. And a man had popped in one day and he said, I'm looking for a man who's just to deliver coal briquettes and firelighters. I've got the man for you, she said. And my father got the job. And I had a horse and cart because he knew about horses and things like that. And I had a place in Mansfield where he kept his stock in there, and I used to get up in the early morning and get the horse all ready for going out.
Left the school at 14, is that
14.
Right? 14.
I shouldn't have left until Christmas, but because I had a job, they let me go. And I was really lucky there, because in 1930 there were no jobs. They call it the hungry 30s, you know. And all there people coming home from the war and all that, no jobs for them.
You had the general strikes as well.
Aye, that's right.
You went to work in the railways, is that right?
Eh?
You went to work in the railway?
What
did you do?
Well, I got a job as a greaser, and that had to do with putting grease in it, because you must remember, at that time, it was on the 3-link couplings, no Buckeyes and things like that in nowadays, and when the train moved off, they had the links clicking into each other, kind of like that, and at Hawick, where we were, we did the examination to trains between Edinburgh and Carlisle. And I had the 3 shifts as well, 6 to 2, 2 to 10, and 10 to 6. And that included a Sunday as well.
Yeah.
We did 48 hours at 14.
What railway line was that?
LNER.
LNER, because they came up this way as well. Up the East Coast into Edinburgh.
Right all the way to Edinburgh. And later on, of course, I went to Portobello. I left Hawick in 1957 because I knew they were going to shut that line before it was announced.
With Dr. Beach.
Because we got a letter to say that it should be possible for a train to run 120 miles without examination. And I thought, Edinburgh to Carlisle, that's about 120 mile anyway. And I thought, they're going to close this line. So my wife wanted to come back to Dalkeith because she's a Dalkeith lady, you see. And I said to her, well, if there's a job up in Edinburgh, I'll put in for it and I'll go. And I said, well, my service, I'm about to get it. And Portobello came up, and I've got that. And the first job I got, when I got to Portobello, was back to Hoyk, giving men their days off and things like that, and sickness and things like that. And by that time, I'd bought myself a house down in Leith, in Trinity actually, a 10-roomed house. You could get a 10-roomed house cheaper than a bungalow and things like that in those days.
Shows you.
And I had to, it'd been standing empty for years. And I had to paint it and paper it and God knows all what, and I had 10 bloody rooms.
You wouldn't get it for loving the money.
But I was young, I was only, young, able, fit and well to do it.
So how did you come to be called up in the Second World War?
Well, he registered. You had to register. And at that time I was working as a blacksmith's hammerer, a blacksmith's hammerman. Now that's a trade according to the ordinance. So I registered as a blacksmith hammerman. Now if I'd been an examiner, I would have got called up right away. But with a blacksmith hammerman, it was sort of laid back a bit. And eventually blacksmith hammerman got called up as well. And I got called up in 1941. And I was at Craigendorn working there. I had a carriage and wagon examiner. And I had to do with the push and pull train I had there, went right away up through the Highlands, up to Helensburgh High and on. And I was there to adjust the brakes and things like that. And that train could be worked with compressed air from the other end, the driver could be there. But coming back down, he could drive it from there. And that was my job.
It's quite a steep, it's quite a steep run, that,
Aye.
And kind of strange going being in the army and still working.
Yeah.
Still working on trains, basically.
And then I was, I knew when I arrived there, and I was sitting on the platform, and I saw this figure coming along the platform. Said, I seem to know that figure. And he got nearer. He says, "Oh," he says, "it's the big one." And his name was David Thingamby, and he'd been at Riccarton. There were no roads at Riccarton. It was purely a railway town near Hoyk. And that's how they got onto the grade, if they would take the jobs. And he had taken that job, so he was a carriage and wagon examiner. And he says, "Oh," he says, "we'll get on fine," he says. And he says, "We've got good inspectors," and things like that. But I was only there about 6 weeks, and I got called up.
Yeah.
But before that, he was on the day shift, was it? No, he was on the back shift. I was 6 to 2. And I went home, and they came to him and they said, "Have you got a jack?" "Aye," so I've got a jack. "Well," he says, "get ready." He says, "There'll be a light engine coming along here, and you'll get on that light engine and you'll go with them." He says, "Never mind what you're doing, just get on that engine and go." And there had been an unexploded bomb at Cardross, which is again near Craigendorn. And Cardross got firebombed. It was just a wee village. And all these bloody incendiary bloody bombs came down there. I minded getting 1 or 2 that had been burned too and taking them home to let folks see them again. And when he got there was a whole lot of people sitting with earphones around this bloody bomb. And there was a wagon in the way to getting the bomb out the bloody road, get the wagon out the road so they could work on it and